With the last generation being Pokémon Sword and Shield, and the latest released Pokémon games being Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and Pokémon Legends Arceus, and with Pokémon Scarlet and Violet just around the corner, with some extra new trailers like sprinkled to entice our interest, now I feel is a great time to just dream up of what Gen 9 could be if Game Freak, Nintendo, Creature Inc., etc. actually considered making these games what people really want them to be. The people who grew up with the games, people who have played other games that want that same amount of quality from Pokemon, and even the casual players who just want to have a fun time. Pokemon isn't just a franchise. It's a unique world with a vast and beautiful community, most of the time. Of course, Sword and Shield were good, but it was clear that the games were made half-heartedly. That's not to say they didn't put their all into some areas of the game, but it just felt like they were definitely holding back a few elements, especially with the animations. So, like my video on my hopes for Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I will break down each segment of this video along with my analysis of some of the trailers, and possibly any other details or screenshots that come out while making this video. So we'll be covering story and characters, gameplay, Pokemon, visuals, music, random stuff, and last of all, the production. Granted, I think that last one might be a bit late, but I still want to talk about some of my thoughts with that. Please keep in mind that these are my opinions, and some expectations may be far-fetched. Oh, and there may be some overlap with the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl expectations, so you will definitely be hearing me repeat myself a bit. Also, at the time of recording this, I haven't completed my playthrough of Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Pokémon Legends Arceus, so please bear with me if there are details from those games I may have missed. One last point to make is that I'm aware how late I am putting this video together, but I've been very busy with, well, working on other videos and with real life, and I may miss some information by the time I finish making this. But I'll just try my best to stay up to date. Multicap will definitely help me out. So, let's start the videos, and before we start, please let me know some of your thoughts and opinions down below, just to see if we got any ideas in common or anything different, because everyone has their different perspectives on what an ideal Pokemon game is. Let's start. Okay, most people can agree that Generation 5 had the best stories, while future installments have expanded on the Pokemon world and lore. My advice? Explore the world deeper instead of being vague with your world. Granted, I'm not saying spill everything on the table, but just try and integrate existing lore into the story, but still make it fresh. I'm sure people will love to have some questions answered. One example could be to explore dimensions more, such as dimension jumping or travelling to other worlds. This will help satiate some of the hunger for the Mega Evolution theory and the Ultra Beasts. But one theory I have is that we may be doing a bit of time travelling, since with the logos and the early trailers of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, and also the mascots themselves, I have a feeling that we're going to be having different perspectives of time. Scarlet representing the past, and Violet representing the future. Personally, I feel that would open so many possibilities. When it comes to characters, I feel there should be a change. I want my rivals to be, well, rivals. Not some minor inconvenient with a few battles from a generic friendly dude. Here is my proposal. Make the rival a girl, as we had too many boy rivals in recent years. Make them feel more like a real person with character, flaws, motivations, etc. Someone who will gain character development. And don't be afraid to make him a bit of a jerk. I mean, we need a reason to feel motivated to beat them. I mean, Blue was a brilliant example of that. I'm not saying we should hate them, but just like, sort of push a few buttons and think, okay, I want to beat them in battle. I want to either match them or surpass them. This does tie to the gameplay, but make them a challenge to battle. Maybe even having stronger Pokemon than you, so, you know, the battles you have are more memorable. Of course, we had characters like Lily and Marnie who filled some of those criteria. On the other end, we had Hop as a rival, who I feel was too friendly and too easy to beat, but did have an intriguing character arc. Saying this, it seems that we might not actually have a rival. I mean, we have Nemona, a Spanish clownfish who is apparently our tutor or something similar. I feel the professor should be more involved in the story. The best example might be Professor Rowan and Professor Sycamore. Both were quite involved in their stories, although Rowan was better as really he wasn't a walking, talking personification of a tutorial. Of course, and I've noticed this, we are getting younger and younger professors. With Professor Sada and Professor Turo, I think they're just challenging Professor Sycamore for the hottest professor. I mean, just look at these guys. For Team Star, I definitely believe that they should be a threat. Not like a bunch of buffoons like Team Skull was. Although to be fair, with that there was actually kind of a balanced reason, like how the Ether Foundation was actually a secret evil company in a way, and Team Skull were just like goons. But I still want an evil organization that I could take seriously, much like Team Rocket. But saying that, I wouldn't mind Team Star having their own thing. But definitely do not go with the side of Team Yell. They weren't even like your evil team. They were just horrible. They were not horrible. They were just bland. They were lifeless. Although it has likely overstayed its welcome, I don't mind having the game mascots being involved in the story, but I do have an idea that might work better that I'll talk about later in the video. I have an idea how the story may turn out. As I said before, if you look at the logos and the mascots of the upcoming games, we notice that the logo for Violet is very flashier with a load of geometric shapes, whereas Scarlet had more of a natural, very artistic look to it. I believe these games could be about tradition and naturalism versus progress and modernism, which I feel would be an amazing topic to cover, especially at this day and age. This is further evidenced by the opening live-action trailer, where the security guard is seen patrolling in some kind of museum in a fairly modern-looking city, but eventually finds themselves in something like a neoclassic/science revolution room. Of course, this became more obvious with the mascots, Miradon and Koraidon, the former clearly being more futuristic, while the latter doesn't even know how to use the wheels that are on its chest and tail, or backside. That's a good point. Is it on its backside? If so, how does pooping? One last point I'd like to make is that, don't be afraid to go a little bit dark with your world building and the story. With Grievard, it's ironically dark, as it sucks the energy out of you, even if it doesn't intend to. To start off, I think we should look at some of the best game features from all the previous titles, at least in my opinion. The first thing is having a safari zone that originated all the way from the very first games, Red and Blue, or Red and Green if you want to be more literal, because that was the actual title of the first two games in Japan. Anyway, this was a great opportunity to have some Pokémon to be found exclusively in this area. You can also add features like bike rails from Generation 3, sinkholes from Generation 4, and even that friend park from Generation 6. Contests could be a game on their own. Originally from Generation 3 and in Generation 4, these were surprisingly complex for a side feature. Although I can understand why Game Freak won't do this, I think contests would be an optional path for you to take instead of gyms. However, I believe you could either have a game exclusively about contests or just have it be a side feature that just as or even more in-depth than the previous games. The mines are exclusive to the Sinnoh region but have made a comeback in the remakes. Clearly, just bring them back either in the same way or in a similar form. As I said in my Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Remakes Expectations video, having items such as bottle caps, fossils from all previous regions, and evolution stones could be added with such a feature. This does relate to the mines, but secret bases first came out in Generation 3, but also were found in the mines of Sinnoh. In Generation 3, Hoenn had places to build bases almost anywhere, in caves, mountains, trees, and by a lake. What if, and hear me out here, what if you have a massive base, starting with going inside a tree, that takes you down underground, where you have another floor under that, where is the real secret base. Kinda like what you see in Minecraft sometimes. And in that secret floor, you have your plushies, PC box, and your ender chest containing all your valuables. Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which I think are not just the best remakes, but the best Pokémon games that came with tons of brilliant content, but with the most unique being the Pokalathon. If you don't remember what that is, it's like contests mixed with Olympics, where your Pokémon do all these activities like football, sprinting, all sorts. It's a really fun one to do, and I would love to have something similar in the games. For the battle enthusiasts out there, how about the Battle Resort, the Battle Station, Those had really unique gimmicks and would be a good opportunity for you to get the items you need, the bottle caps, the ability capsules, etc. And it'll be done in a fun way so you don't feel bored with like grinding all these BPs. Any of these features or more would be great in the new games. Something that would work with the culture of the country that this region is based on would be even better. An example I can think on top of my head, this is a harvesting game, but I don't really know much about Spanish sports, sorry. As we obviously know, the open world concept is great, which seems to be the case with what we've seen in the trailers. The thought of exploring the region and finding Pokeball crates like in Gales of Darkness through puzzles like Breath of the Wild, mixed with something similar to the ride feature, what like Sun and Moon, it would make the world feel even more immersive. And can we just have weather and seasons in the game? I feel they can often do methods of evolution, opportunities for exploration, and making the world less static. Maybe make it like Animal Crossing. Of course, what I mean is whether that changes in each location, much like in the wild area. Maybe even in different times of the year too. So in like the winter months, it would be mostly snowy in there. In the summer months, it would be very dry and hot, but there'll probably be a lot of luscious vegetation as well. You know what I mean. With the XP share, I think many people, including myself, feel it needs to be either nerfed or have the ability to be customized, as the item has become too forceful to make the game easier. And as a lot of people might know, you don't really want an easy Pokemon game, but you don't want to off-put some of the newcomers as well, so this is where I feel the customization option would be best. So some ideas for how the customization might work is just, decide how it would be spread, how much would be actually going to the Pokemon, which Pokemon. Like, you can just say, okay, this experience goes to just the second member of my party, third member of my party, could even go to the Pokemon on my PC. That'd be a little bit OP, but With the gyms, wouldn't it be cool if we could just go wherever we want, like in whatever order we want? I said this in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond expectation video, but having I'll show the clip. I'm not going to put the actual table up, but I'll show the clip with that table. There's an example. Is that too much to ask? And even supporting trainers, you can, do the same with them. Then it'll be drastically different. You can just have the same Pokemon with different levels. Does it have to be that hard? Oh, speaking of hard, can we have some decently challenging puzzles, please? Because I love that. I like imagine a Bioshock puzzle with the pipes of the hacking sequence. That'd be fun. With gym battles, with Generation 4 in particular, is that they didn't just focus on the types of the Pokemon, but also the moveset as well. So, for example, you have a Fire Gym, but you have a Drifblim, which is a Ghost Flying type, which learns moves like Will-O-Wisp and I think Heat Wave, but I might be wrong. Nope. Of course, this can be seen with Sudowoodo in a grass type gym. If people don't know, Sudowoodo is a pure rock type. So having it change into a grass type, it really spices things up. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how else they implement it. And how can I forget such an amazing feature of triple battles and rotation battles? Those were really good, and I'd love to see them implemented again. Okay, I won't say too much, but I do actually have an idea for a mechanic that would literally bring triple battles and double battles to life. Well, back to life, but in a completely epic new form. But that's my little secret. With the raid battles, as we see, I would like something very fast-paced, but still with some coordination. Dynamax battles were so slow and tedious. I really want to have something more fast-paced. I don't mind slow pace if it means that you've got to really think. Well, it's not actually that. It's the animations, like one Pokemon stat drops, another Pokemon stat drops. You can't, just show them all at once. That would be interesting. Last of all, we need a solid aftergame. Anything like the Delta episode would be amazing. Okay, I have a crazy idea that does sort of relate to the aftergame idea. But how about we make a second region, or have a second region, specifically Kalos. I mean, it makes sense as the real life counterparts of the two regions are next to each other, and it'll be a great opportunity to make up for the lack of content in Pokemon X and Y, including what we could have got from Pokemon Z. This, in my opinion, would be the perfect aftergame. The Pokemon are the core of the franchise. I mean, it is the name of the franchise for Arceus' sake. For starters, my choice is Fuecoco, by the way. is to avoid making them too human-like, much like they've done in the past few generations. Generation 8 is terribly guilty of this, as you can tell. With the cat, which is Sprigato, I believe, please don't do it in Incineroar, where it just goes into a bipedal sumo wrestler, because it just makes things become awkward. By the way, I do actually like Incineroar's design, but I feel some aspects are a little bit too uncanny. If the Terrorization gimmick involves new forms, I hope they won't leave the region starters out like they did in Generation 6 and partially Generation 8. When Sword and Shield were released, the starter Pokemon did not gain access to Gigantamax forms, which was quite criminal to be honest. And in case anyone's wondering, no, I don't believe Ash Greninja counts. However, Generation 7 and I suppose the Isle of Armor DLC for Generation 8 have corrected that mistake. To be honest though, as cool as the Terrorization feature is, I kinda hope it's not a completely dependable gimmick. Like, I mean, we were okay without them, like, as far back as Generation 5. Maybe that's just a boomer part of me talking. Speaking of gimmicks, please bring back Mega Evolution and Z Crystals, I suppose. I mean, preferably the former, because Mega Evolution, I feel, really gave some Pokemon the competitive edge, and I feel was somewhat balanced. I mean, I could be wrong, I've never actually done a bit of competitive play. But definitely leave out Dynamax, as cool as the Gigantamax forms are. I think many of you saw this coming, but new variants are greatly appreciated, especially when lesser appreciated Pokemon get those new forms. I can list a few examples, but I yet to make a video about that. Although I have kind of touched that a bit with Pokemon creations, such as giving Sunkern a new form with what I personally believe to be a great evolution. Of course, I haven't forgotten about Palladian Rooper, which I hope evolves into something amazing. I mean, I hope it evolves into Quagsire, then evolves into something even cool like a Poison Dragon or Poison Ground with Draconic elements. Not like Flying Dragon, but more like Sea Dragon. That'd be cool. Like Axolotl Dragon. Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe not, I don't know. I feel giving existing Pokemon new evolutions would work great as well, since it has been a while since we had anything like that. The last time I believe was Generation 4. Of course, I am not referring to the region exclusive evolutions, that being the Galarian variants like Surfetch'd, Obstagoon, and Cursula. Of course, we did see Farigiraf, which is a design I do actually like, especially as it's from the underappreciated Generation 2. Okay, this point may be a bit of a stretch, but make sure to add all of the forms. And by that I mean, and including the Totem Pokemon from Sun and Moon, and the special Pichu from Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It just shows that those Pokemon are not forgotten. I mean, we do have Titan Pokemon, which does make me curious if they considered Totem Pokemon, but, you know, made some changes. Only the release will tell. I feel that the games need to finally add Pokemon that had never been officially released. The only one I can think of on top of my head is the Eternal Flower Floette, who I feel could be integrated into the games in some way, especially with that, you know, Carlos tie-in, that'd be cool. My last point, and this may be controversial, but I do hope they don't really push themselves to add too many new Pokemon. Focus on better designs and mechanics rather than quantity. However, if that's not the case, I don't really mind some bad or goofy designs, as I feel the art community can speculate and test their talents by redesigning them. I mean, what was that frog avocado thing? That was definitely a weird one. I like it, but it's unexpected. Anyway, I'm going to save my least favourite designed Pokemon for a separate video. How can I forget? The Ultimate Unknown. Make Unknown better. I mean, they make these Pokemon seem very powerful in that, and they're just like, we just know hidden power. And we can count to Z and apostrophe and question mark. I mean, let's just hope we get the Ultimate Unknown. If anyone wants me to design the Ultimate Unknown, please let me know. I would love to try that. I would say this as a hope, but I believe it's a certainty. We are going to get Overworld Shinies. Yep. We are going to get Shinies in the Overworld, and that's actually really cool. We get that Let's Go sort of flair to it. Speaking of Let's Go, wouldn't it be cool if like the visuals were like that? You know, very vibrant and colourful. And speaking of that, I feel the shinies need a bit of an upgrade. You know, have a bit more of a saturated color change. Or even just some of the worst shinies, change them. Garchomp, Gengar, you know, the absolute worst. But yes, I think the worst ones are generally the ones that are really unnoticeable. And those, in my opinion, should gain priority. That way, when people do shiny hunt, they want to make sure to actually spot the Pokemon. If it's like a Garchomp or something, you won't be able to tell. You'd just be like, oh, it's just a regular Garchomp. But it turns out it was a shiny. I know we have the little particle effects and that, but still, that doesn't really excuse the lack of effort. And as I said, I'm going to try and make another shiny fix video one day. Hopefully, with these games, they have fossil Pokemon, which would be a massive missed opportunity. May I suggest Cenozoic animals? Because we have never had those yet. You know, a Mammoth, a Smilodon, a Glyptodont. You can even just go with animals that many people would not even notice or think of. I'll have to like look it up at some point. Maybe have an exclusive episode surrounding Cenozoic Spain. That'd be really cool. With the Pokédex, fingers crossed we can actually access every single Pokemon. I mean, imagine that. Having like every Pokemon you ever had, or well, not ever had, but you know, your personal favorites, the Pokemon that you grew up with, walking alongside you in a Paldea region. That would be amazing. Like, have all my starters like fighting with me in that. Oh, it would be nice. Like, one thing I hope Game Freak did learn is that people do not like having the Pokédex like messed around. Like, Dexit was a massive bummer and gained a massive backlash. I'm sure many fans agreed that the games have been starting to lack in quality animation, which I know one YouTuber, Distant Kingdom, has been covering a lot on his channel. I say that in a way that they are so noticeably cringy that someone had to go through thorough analysis to make their points. So finding a way to incorporate fluid animation through expression, attacks, etc. would make each Pokemon feel more alive. The worst example I can think of is Blastoise's cannons, which is literally a meme at this point. And make sure the attacks make contact would be even better. You can have some code saying where a beam comes from or where the fist and jaw connect. It doesn't have to be flashy, but a step up from Battle Revolution, which that is a step up from some of the previous games. With scaling, which I said in my Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl expectations video, I feel that's very important. And if you look at the raid shot here, you can actually see there's a bit of good scaling going on. Like, Farigiraf is a lot bigger than Sableye. I really hope, I hope they do scaling correctly. And maybe not too drastic like some people might be expecting, but definitely a lot better than having a Wailord being, you know, slightly smaller than a human in terms of height, because that's pathetic. Also, it'd be funny to see like a tiny Roselia. Like, oh, it was just like this little sassy thing that, oh no, you did that. I'm gonna do some magical leaf on you. One issue we had with Pokemon models was that any Pokemon that was flying just flew. They didn't like land at all. But from what I saw in some of the trailers is that, well, Salamence, which was always gliding lifelessly, is now standing mightily, like its wings folded back. Ooh, that's a nice change. I mean, we saw Talonflame flying as well, but maybe that's just how they are generally. But it would be nice to see, you know, every avian Pokemon have a flight and terrestrial animation. In the trailers, the rendering is gorgeous. Not only that, but if you look at Magnemite, it has some amazing texture and reflections. And did I mention the game seemed to have ray tracing? This could be potentially the best looking games so far, and I hope they are not just filters or something, which I very much doubt. I'm aware of the drop in frames with the distance, as you can see with the Hoppip and the flags. Pokemon Legends Arceus had a similar issue, but they did fix it upon release, although it's not perfect, as you can see from a Staraptor here. I like how we get to see some NPCs walking around too, which was something we haven't seen since Generation 5, over 10 years ago. Having the Pokemon interact with the world would give them more personality and the region would feel more alive. Although, not like those Swablu sort of like hovering above those poles. I'm not going to deny that that would be very hard to do for something like, you know, when you think about Jurassic World Evolution 2, I noticed there's a little bit jittery there, and it's kind of hard to do, especially on the Switch. Everyone says it's the most powerful system to date, but I feel it's definitely not the most powerful system out there. Okay, this is more of a nitpick, but this is more like me talking about what I want in the future, maybe, I suppose. But one thing I did want to say is that I love to have like an anime sort of style. I mean, I'm okay with the style they have now, but I think like having it feeling, well, like an anime. I said that again in the Brilliant Diamond Expectation video, but having it like the epic animation in Legends of Arceus would be amazing. Maybe something similar to Okami? That would be interesting. Okami or... Unfortunately, I can't think of any games similar. I suppose Persona, maybe? Although I don't know much about that. I think one of the best examples of visuals I would say would be Pokémon Snap. Well, the new Pokémon Snap. The visuals on that are just gorgeous. Probably the best I've seen. Of course, I think that feedback may have influenced the character designs for Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, just with how similar they are. That's kind of interesting because I wonder if that was me who made the input on that. I would actually be quite happy with that. I doubt it, but still. It's nice to have a little hope that a big company's paying attention to little channels like mine.
Dude, chill out. You're sounding dumb.
Okay, I'll stop. I am no musician, so I can't really offer the best insight, but I'll try my best. However, with my understanding and tastes. I just thought to add this category since I feel music has great importance. I think making changes to the soundtrack suited to the time of day, seasons, and weather would be really cool. This could be done with subtle change in instruments or pace if you're a bit worried about writing completely new songs. Animal Crossing New Horizons and Breath of the Wild are great recent examples of this. And obviously don't be afraid to go cultural, such as having Spanish style music. I don't know any examples of Spanish music, but a mixture of traditional, bit of modern. That'd be really cool. Another thing to consider is to mix things up with a mixture of, your typical instruments and electronic music, and maybe some vocals, but not like cheering vocals, but like choir vocals. I mean, one thought, if we ever have like a boss battle or multiple boss battles, I just hope we get some epic choir action to those soundtracks. Ooh, that will just get my, a bit of like electric guitar, a bit of like dramatic cello and violin action going on, maybe a little bit of bass and drum. And so, like I said, I'm not an expert on music. Okay, this last point for this segment will help the franchise connect to the community, but why not have some musical YouTubers like GlitchX City and Castorax, of course, including many others that I just can't think to list, who would be able to add their input on some of the tracks in the game's soundtrack. That way, it would show the company isn't closed off, and it would show they praise their community for, well, their creativity and how they pay homage to the franchise. I feel a bit mixed about potential change to the breeding mechanics with the picnic feature, as, to be honest, I like the old method of just biking like a lunatic to have your whale on skitty make as many eggs as possible for that shiny neck cushion kitten. However, I do understand that things need to change, especially with making features more accessible and fluid. I mean, shiny grinding can be very time consuming and doesn't leave much room to do anything else except some YouTube watching. Speaking of which, if anyone's actually watching this while shiny hunting, let me know down in the comments below. And also shiny luck to you. I'll make another shiny Pokemon fix video one day. Speaking of the picnic mechanic, it seems to be an upgrade from the curries in Pokemon Sword and Shield. If I were to suggest a feature for that, it's to increase the level and the affection rate, but also influence breeding, if that's what's going on with the picnic table, which is very odd. I mean, for example, you can have a higher chance of getting better IVs if you match certain Pokemon or you cook the right sandwich. We do have the feature of better odds of catching certain Pokemon, which I am intrigued to see how it'll be put into practice. At this point, I believe many people would want voice acting, but hopefully not the one that's in the trailers, because that was kind of cringy, in my opinion. Like, even if it was just Japanese narrated with subtitles, that would be fine. But the problem was that we have been stuck with no voice acting for ages, and it's okay with the older games because, well, they didn't really have much detail. But with Pokemon Sword and Shield, with Piers singing into a microphone, even though we don't actually hear any vocals, it's really awkward. So any form of voice acting, good voice acting hopefully, would be greatly appreciated. During gym battles, I think having a narrator would be really fun to have, much like in Pokemon Battle Revolution. Oh, that was fun. Like the energy given in that voice, it was really good, and it was quite dynamic as well. Very flexible, and I believe they could do that again with these games. You know, you could just have narrator saying, "Oh, Belly Plonker has fainted from something." What was his name again? Belly Boom? Belly Buzz? I can't remember. I can't remember his blooming name. I'll just call him Avocado Frog. And with the customization, I feel we need more options when it comes to race, body shape, head shape, etc. Granted, I understand that would be a lot to do, but I feel the fan base would appreciate it. I mean, I would love to have a beard. It doesn't be like a full-on beard, it could just be a little stubbly beard. Or fake beard, like a center beard. To be honest, this is mainly for one point, but that point is that I feel the production really needed more time. I mean, the main series games are the center point of the Pokemon franchise. Also, we just had 2 Pokemon games come out early last year and late last year. Legends Arceus being released a month before Pokémon Scarlet and Violet were announced. Simply put, more time means more time to look over things, over for bugs, or to add new content. I mean, I don't know how many people feel the same, but I'm happy to wait if it means that the games will be much better than they would be if they were a bit more rushed. And I don't mean delayed due to lore stuff and that, but I mean time on the actual game development. Game Freak, Nintendo, Creatures Incorporated, whomever actually has the big say over the games. I think if you listen to your fan base, is a good way to build trust. Also, transparency is a good way to make you seem less like an evil money-grabbing organization. You know, don't feel so secluded in that. I mean, I'm not saying like give everything away. As I said earlier in this video, you know, it's nice to have a few secrets if they're intended to be kept. If it's to surprise your fan base, I definitely appreciate that sort of secrecy. But I just mean cutting the natural decks and making up reasons for better polygons and that, or better animations, which wasn't really the case. You know, just say we couldn't do natural decks because we haven't got enough time on that. Granted, I'm not an expert on production management or how to manage a company or a franchise or an IP, so I could be blowing a lot of hot air. Now, of course, I am okay with Game Freak working on different franchises, like they were talking about Making Town. I don't know if that's released yet, I never actually heard anything about that, but I feel that should be more of a side project, maybe for those who get fed up with like focusing on Pokemon games. I think have people who are passionate about the games work on it and then sort of like manage it with those who are working on the other games as well, because Pokemon is a very big IP, and if you're not really taking responsibility for it, you are going to suffer a lot of loss. I'm saying that with concern because you are a good company, from what I understand. Of course, this isn't to say that I want you to constantly work on it. I get that a company needs a break. What I'm trying to say is, if you don't want to work on the Pokemon games for a while, then don't. You know, there's so many people working on various fan games. There's also various projects as well people can do. You've got various mobile games as well. Just, you know, give yourself a break, and maybe some new ideas, new perspectives, something fresh could come to mind, and, you know, you could actually do something that would really push things forward. But yes, if the company considered those points, and maybe the Pokemon franchise may become better. Of course, as I said, I understand that they are a company, so there might be stuff like stockholders, clients, deadlines, etc. So I can say that I understand it's not going to be that simple. Okay, I thought to just shove this at the end of the video. Well, not the end, it'll be before the ending, but yes, so a lot of people might be screaming at me about yesterday's trailer. Well, the trailer was on the 8th of November. I was confused about that, because I was waiting for it to be uploaded about, 7 PM? Because it was at Pacific time? Nope, they decided to do it quite a few hours earlier, unless I've got my times wrong. But yes, let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the Donphan evolutions. I will admit, I was really heavily considering using Donphan in my playthrough, you know, before this announcement, because it was a Pokemon I liked. actually one of the few relevant Pokemon, apart from the recent additions, what's it called? Copperajah and Cufant. But yeah, it's nice to see another Gen 2 Pokemon get an evolution. But not just that, but to showcase what could be a new evolution mechanic, which I think a lot of people speculate for a while now, is future and past forms, or I think it might be that. It could just be more of traditional versus upgraded, maybe. Like, if you look at the futuristic one, that doesn't look much like Donphan at all now. Like, what was Donphan is vaguely there. I'll be honest, I prefer the ancient version, since that just feels more like what I expect from an evolution. These are only teasers, by the way, but we do have a pretty good idea what they do look like. Again, yes, I'm excited to say that I want to use this in my playthrough. Like, I love Phanpy. Phanpy is so adorable and underrated. Donphan's really cool as well. I actually made a little fact. It was a Gen 2 Pokemon that was revealed in the Pokemon movie. Like, this was before the Pokemon Gold and Silver games were announced. So it was quite a surprise, and it's nice to have that Pokemon be so notorious, you know, as like a teaser. Of course, there are some other things we'll talk about, such as, I think there was this little clip where I saw the characters like quickly turn 90 degrees or 108 degrees, which, I don't know, that might just have been a clip from a while back, I don't know, but that did look like great from what I've seen. I could be very wrong. They could have fixed that just at the last minute or something, I don't know. Other than that, I thought the whole music video itself was actually really nice. It definitely showcased a lot, and it made me, well, it's making me excited for the games coming out next week. Okay, let's wrap up the video. And now we're at the end of the video. If you just watched the whole thing, thank you so much. So I'm going to try and stop recording, because this is actually the second version of the ending I'm doing, because, there's so much that comes to my head. It's going to be still more coming into my head. There's so many things that I would love the games to be. I do hope, maybe next year, to do my perfect generation video, or Generation 10 hope and expectations, which should hopefully not be tied down by Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Because originally this was just going to be Generation 9, because like when I started writing this, the games were not announced. Same with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Before, it was just Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes. That's it. It wasn't Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But yes, if you'd love to see more from what I do, I am going to do a Let's Play of Pokemon Violet, as I probably said a few times in this video. But also, if you love to see some of the other ideas I have, then please check out my Pokemon Creations series. I do all sorts of things, you know, mixing up new mechanics, doing new forms, doing new evolutions, just playing around with ideas. And that's what I hope to be the backbone of this channel. The Let's Plays and that are just sort of side things I try and do. If you enjoyed this video, then I think you know what to do, but if you're still dubious, then just please check out my channel before, you know, subscribing and that. And if you do want to follow me on my other sites, then please check out my social media. You'll see them at the end of the video, but also down in the description. And last of all, if you want to support this channel, then please consider becoming a patron. Minimum cost is $1 per month, and at a minimum cost with that, you get your name at the end of the video, and you can take part in most polls. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I do apologize if this is a bit rushed. As I said, this video has been in the works for a while now. Before I wrap up, please don't forget to comment down below if you agree with me on anything or disagree with me on anything. I'm always happy to listen. I'm not a stubborn mule. I do think that my views and opinions should be flexible and adaptable. Well, because I'm an artist, so I've got to be quite adaptable, I think. Sorry, I'll wrap up now. In the past, present, or even future, I will see you there. Bye!